All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast, and I am your host, Brian Arnold, and just excited, and I hate that I say it every single time because every single guest that I get to have on the show are guests that I'm super excited about having on the show. I truly just love the possibility of saying, okay, this year, and right now, I don't know when you're watching this, but if you're in 2024, we're doing 100 Black men this year. And hopefully it doubles in 2025 and we move forward, because the more examples we see of folks that are successful, the more that we talk about these pillars of trust and how we come and show up and be able to trust in our lives, the more we talk about our money, the thing that's taboo in our lives that sometimes we just don't talk about, the more that we talk about and experience what our identity is and how we show up with our identity, how we interact, our faith in the things that we do. How do we help our bodies, and make sure, that if the average Black man dies at 73, how do we make sure that that doesn't happen to you or I, or in this case, David? And so as we talk today and as we get through this process, the reason I'm so excited because I've known David for many years. We were just talking about my son is now 36 years old, and he was his coach when he was a freshman in high school, and just being able to follow David and his career of what he's done, the man that he's become as a younger man. When I was, I had been a track athlete and a coach, and being able to release my son to somebody that I knew could shape his identity, to shape his future, to shape the person that he became. And so you start thinking about who are the people that are in your life, the associations that make a difference in your life. And I can say for our family, David has been one of those men. And so to see him become this dad that he's become, and, he's telling me, and I'm sure he'll share this in a story, that he now has a child that is going to high school. I can't believe that I'm that old, because I'm not. I'm 29 years old, and yet it's going to high school, right? And so, David, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us and share your life and share the things that you've been able to do to become the man that you are. And so maybe we can just start out with you, maybe just talking about, your life and how you grew up and some of the things and maybe some of the concepts. And we'll get into our pillars, of course, but, we want to know a little bit about you. So.
For sure. Definitely. I am just first honored to be on here. Thank you very much for having me on. I grew up in Southern California, the land of great weather all the time. At least they say it doesn't rain in sunny Southern California. But grew up in a God-fearing family. Lived here in Southern California till ninth grade. I have two older sisters who graduated high school before I did, and then my grandmother lived in South Carolina. We would take road trips every summer to go to South Carolina, about a 3-day trip. We would drive, and it was a pretty cool experience. They graduated before me, and so my grandmother had Alzheimer's, came down with Alzheimer's, and so after my freshman year of high school, my parents moved me and my two parents moved to South Carolina to take care of her. I was involved in sports, basketball and track and field, and South Carolina is a great place, second home to me. And when I got down there, it's a different type of lifestyle. There's not as many distractions as California, so I was able to kind of focus in on high jumping and track and field, and actually obtained a scholarship at the University of Florida. Went to Florida, spent I squeezed 4 years into 5, and graduated from there, and competed professionally in track and field for a little bit. And went to Olympic trials in 2000 and 2004. Did not make the Olympic team, but did make the Olympic team in 2001. About 2006, I decided it was time to kind of hang the spikes up. That wasn't really going to be track and field wasn't paying the bills, and I just started I started working a little construction and some substitute teaching, and my goal was to be a firefighter. No pun intended, but those plans kind of flamed out, and
I love it. Yes.
Ended up starting coaching track and field and basketball, and became a teacher, and been teaching now in this district for 20 years. Met my wife in 2003. We were married in 2008. First child came along in 2009, who's going to be at Soraya, who's going to be a freshman here, and this coming August at the school that I teach. And then we have a 6-year-old who's a second grader. Saray actually has a YouTube channel of her own. It's called The Stut Show. She stutters, and so she uses The Stut Show to kind of talk about stuttering and successful people who have stuttered. And she amazes me. Like I was against her YouTube channel because I didn't want the comments and the backlash, but my wife said we can turn the comments off, and I said, well, let's roll with it. So, that's that's my life in a nutshell. I'm a special ed English teacher, freshman and sophomore. Okay. I'm also an ASB advisor. Like I said, coach for years. Now I just focus on the high jump as far as coaching, and really just trying to keep a balance of life, with my marriage, my family, faith, career, everything.
Gotcha. Growing up, and thank you for sharing that, because it's so amazing. Like when you say that success leaves clues, and coming from a family like you did that was able to hone you. What are some of the life's lessons that you think as a child that were super important that you have been able to take on into, either copy or duplicate into your life now that were some of those formation things that maybe some have and some didn't have?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm blessed that I was poured into from my parents, my aunts, my uncles. I would ask my parents questions about the history of our family. Okay. We have 32 family members that graduated from Grambling State University in Louisiana.
Really? Okay.
So I'm the first from my grandmother's lineage to go to a 4-year college, but we were all expected to finish high school and go to college. That was an expectation. That was something that was taught to us about. My dad liked to. He told me that if you want to do something, you'll find time to do it. Okay. There was no time for really to making excuses. And so just having a place to go and feeling safe at home, knowing that I will be disciplined for messing up, but I'll also be loved, and the relationship will be kind of restored after being disciplined. So there was an expectation. I remember my freshman year in high school, kind of a story that kind of sums it all up is I came home from my first day of school and I found out about basketball tryouts, and I found about the stipulations to make the basketball team. And the coach told us all we needed was a 2.0 to play basketball. So I'm excited to get in the house as a dad. All I got to have is a 2.0 to play basketball. That's just all C's. And he goes, no, you have to have a 3.0. I said, no, look, right here on the paper it says 2.0. He goes, in my house, it's a 3.0. So the expectation was always put at a higher level. And I think that I was always expected to want to achieve more. And so that's kind of where my mentality came from.
So those expectations, that are they the same for your kids? Are they the same? I mean, have you lightened the load a little bit, or is it a higher bar that's been set?
I have not so far. My daughter is all A's. She's smarter than I am at that age. Okay. She has all A's, and then she struggles in math. I have struggles in math as well. So the academic first is still a pillar in our family. My son only being in first grade, we're trying to figure out where he's going to be. He's a little wild. He takes after dad. He's a little wild. He's active. I try to stay in the gym to keep up with that young man. But so I want to keep that going for sure.
Okay. I love it. So thinking about now that you're in college and you're graduating college and you're trying to say, okay, I have to do something with my life. And I know track and field was, the dream, and making the team, and, being one of the best high jumpers in the entire world is, that is a dream. And then all of a sudden, you say you have to hang up the spikes as you said it. What goes through your mind? What are some of the fears or the things that your belief system? Do you believe you can do anything that's possible, or do you believe there's some limitations? What is your thought process as you're getting ready to start out your life? Because did you do education at Florida, at the University of Florida, or was that your major, or did you do education later?
I minored in sociology.
Okay.
Honestly, I was majoring in eligibility. I was just trying to.
Okay. I love it.
to remain eligible to compete, you know, and then whatever classes fell together, I ended up with a major in sociology and a minor in education. Okay. Now, after going out and competing and then trying the firefighter field, which they told me my people skills weren't good enough to be a firefighter. Not sure about where that came from.
You got to talk to the fire, right?
Yeah. So I ended up I always wanted to coach. You know, my plan was to be a firefighter and coach. And then I started subbing, and I started building a relationship with kids. And because of some things that some things that I didn't like how I received coaching, I wanted to go and fix those things and make sure that some other kids didn't have those had a positive experience of positive coaching student athlete relationship, and kind of in a way kind of fix what I didn't have in some areas.
Okay, gotcha. So that makes sense. And then now you're able to, you go to school. I majored in eligibility. I I love that. That is so cool. And now you decide, hey, firefighting is not going to be for me. I love what I'm doing, substitute teaching. Now I want to become a teacher. Was that a stretch at that point where to get your credential and do all that kind of stuff, or it was just, hey, go take the classes, get it done, and be all over?
It actually kind of fell into place. I mean, after being, and I always, like to sit back and observe. So I started out as an instructional assistant, and I would watch the teachers I worked with, and I would say, okay, these are great things that I would do in a classroom. These things that I wouldn't do. And so at that point, we still had like a credential program. I went to Cal State San Bernardino at the time. After going to University of Florida undergrad, I decided to go to Cal State San Bernardino, go back to school, and they had a program where you can go to school and teach at the same time. Mm-hmm. So there was no like, oh, get your credential and then wait, and then all that stuff, and you gotta teach, teach while you're not making any money or something like that. Like a student teach. I didn't have to do any student teaching. I was on the job training. So that was a blessing that I had through the special ed department. So 2 years, and the way that I paid my tuition was they take a chunk out of your check every month, and that paid the tuition. So I did that, and after 2 years, graduated, and then it was like a huge pay raise. That tuition wasn't coming out anymore. And you asked earlier, did I feel like there was any do I feel like I can do anything? And that was instilled in me early that yes, you can do anything. There may be struggles because of the color of your skin, but do not use that as an excuse. There may be some people that put some roadblocks in your way or try to put roadblocks in your way, but we serve a God that can close any door that cannot be opened, and He can open any door that cannot be closed. So if you just continue, and even when you fail, understand that that's a road to success. It may be a struggle, and might be a longer road, but it's still a road that you can go down.
Man, that's heavy right there. That's good. I want to kind of talk about some of our pillars, because we're starting to talk about identity a little bit.
Yeah.
And, in your viewpoints on, being first, being a man of color, being a husband, you have this amazing wife that is just, incredible to see you guys, flourish. And then being a dad, when you think about that, how does your identity, or how was your identity shaped, or what is the things that you do to be this amazing father, to be this amazing husband, to be, to live in your community, and make life better for the people that you are around?
Well, and I took a marriage and family class in college. I got a B+. So I'm not an amazing dad, but I'm working.
Okay.
I'm working on being the best husband and father that I can. So, and looking at these pillars, the identity, the trust, the faith, the finance, the health, they're all very important. I think that one that I would add is family.
Okay.
I think family, but my first important one is faith. Faith is number one.
Okay.
Because if you're not believing in anything, then what are you doing? You got to start having that faith, and faith was always instilled in me, and I leaned on faith, and even when I went away from faith, I was always brought back to that. And then the family aspect of I look at our society, and I look at, as a Black man, there's an attack on our families.
Mm-hmm.
They want to split the family. They want to separate the family so that we cannot flourish. There's other things that are coming in the family. How you should treat your kids this way, and don't treat your kids this way, and you should. And then we got to kind of just kind of step up and and they don't like to say this word nowadays in our society, but we have to man up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the farthest thing from politically correct on a lot of aspects. I feel like I feel like our society wants to frown on masculinity nowadays, and that's something that I think that is very important. But identity changes, as you asked earlier. Our identity changes as we age. I mean, I was a high jumper. That's identified as a high jumper. Well, now at 45 years old, I barely can jump to conclusions. But we
I love
we
it.
it changes. Then as I was a young man and single and playing a lot of video games. So once I got married, I decided I don't need these video games. I need to focus in on my wife. And then as the kids came around, I became a dad. I'm not a man without fear. I know I try not to have fear, but when my wife was pregnant, we had a baby girl first, and there was a sense of relief because I was afraid to. I had to admit to myself I was afraid to bring a boy into the world because how do you raise a man? If you raise a son and your son's a screw up, the society's gonna look at you as you messed up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But bringing my daughter was a blessing to have first because she's daddy's little girl and she adores daddy. And now as as when my son is here, he's a blessing as well. And I think that having her first prepared me better to have a son and kind of build that confidence that I needed. And once again, that's also faith. That's staying prayerful. That's staying in the Word. That's making sure my family's involved in faith and praying for their salvation and all those good things. So I hope I answered your question on that one.
Yeah, I mean we'll dig a little bit deeper into it because now that you've kind of the family unit and how important that means when you think about showing up to wherever you show up. So you are an educator, you are a community person, you are the different places that you show up. You as a coach, right? The athletes that are impressionable, that you have kind of maybe their identity in your hands. I mean, you literally do at that age when folks are trying to figure out who they are. What does it mean to show up as a godly man in those different situations, in those places, or how have you tried to do it in your life?
It's everything. It's everything because godly man, godly black man, because for some of these students, I'm the only black male teacher they're going to ever have or black coach that they'll ever have. So I am their only example of what a black man is. Or if I'm one example of what a black man is, it's my duty, it's my responsibility to show them put my best foot forward. And there's also some pressure because I feel like I'm held to a higher standard. I have to defeat stereotypes, but to show them my faith and talk about my faith, which I do, even though I teach at a public school, sharing my opinions, letting students know that, listen, we respect each other's opinions. That's all I ask. Respect each other's opinions. You respect my opinion. I respect your opinion. If we have opinions that differ, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to agree to disagree on certain things, but I'm going to share and express what I feel. I'm not going to hate anybody for feeling any different. I'm not going to belittle them for feeling any different. And they shouldn't try to do the same to me either. But I think that is huge with students of color or students of non-color. That's my how I present myself.
One of the things that you just said really brought home to me the importance, and it was defeat stereotypes, because there's stereotypes within our own culture that we believe about each other and our expectations, and then there's stereotypes that others have on us. When I think of the family unit, and you think of like the 20s and the 30s and the 40s as you look at our history, and where the black family was super strong. and education was way up, and then we're part of the family after, obviously they were taken away in slavery in the 1800s, but as we were segregated, the family became super strong because there wasn't this ability to do all these things. And then you jump into the 60s where men were taken out of the homes, right? And now there isn't a family unit. They, systematically destructed the family unit in our culture. And then we get to, the 2000s, and you go, okay, so what is my expectation and that stereotype of what it means to be a dad and a husband in the home, and be at home and take care of my kids. And, I think of even in the 80s and the 90s, how many Black men that I knew that weren't taking responsibility even for child support, that weren't allowed to be in the home. And, and then so we had these stereotypes, dad, mama's boy or daddy's boy, or, I'm trying to think of some of those deep ones where mom was the person, big mama, the mom and grandma were the people who took care of their sons. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of examples why you didn't have to be. And you go to the barbershop, it doesn't look like you've been to the barbershop in a long time. But, you go to the barbershop, and all the conversations are, about, as you can imagine, all the conversations about the different women that folks will be, and how they take care of their wives, how they take care of their kids. What are some of those stereotypes that you knew had to be broken in order for you to become the man that you wanted to be, or just live out that life as the man?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that stereotypes as blunt as, Black men don't take care of their responsibilities. Okay. We're going to be trying to get over. We're going to be late. We're going to be lazy. We don't care about our children. It's like we make children and we just move on. Or if we're in the house, we take a back seat, and the wife just controls everything. She runs everything. If we're making money and we're in the house, we're bringing home the money, we give it to her, she does what she has to do with the money. We're not spending any time with our kids. It's her job to take them to the park. It's her job to put them to bed. It's her job to read to them, and those are some generational curses that have to be broken, and it has to be intentional, because some of that stuff is not being done organically. So it has to be intentional. We have to learn, like, I was blessed, and we have to learn, how do we love a woman? Who do we learn how to love a woman from? Is it going to be our father? It's going to be our uncle. It's going to be a TV show. How are they portraying us? How do we want to be portrayed? So a lot of these things are just, speaking truth to our children. My son and I, even at 6 years old, I got to speak truth to him. I have to teach him about, this is mom and sister. We protect them. That's our job. Society may even look at that as, well, you're trying to make him to be a tough guy and be no, I'm teaching him responsibility. Yeah. So little things like that is basically, just kind of, we talk about basic stereotypes, but then I can also talk about from our own race. You brought up a little bit, almost like crabs in a barrel. Okay. If I want to go do something and they say, hey, black men don't do that. That's something only white people do. Or this is a vacation that only white people take, or things like that. And when you don't expand your horizons, you're never going to know. And then I also think that, there's some people have a fear of success because of the failures that it's going to take to get there.
Wow. Okay. I like that.
So, yeah.
Well, and you said crabs in a barrel, when you think of, fishermen, and they go out and they're fishing for crabs. And so when you take a crab out and you have your basket, and a lot of crab baskets, you go, well, how come it doesn't have a lid? Well, the first crab that you put into the basket, if they're there by themselves, they got claws and whatever else they have, and they'll just climb right out of the basket and walk around. But as soon as you put a second crab in that basket, the one crab won't let the other one climb out. they could help each other and both of them can climb out, but one will never climb out. And that's a lot. What you're saying is we live in, we don't want each other to succeed sometimes, because if you succeed and then I'm not doing what it takes to succeed, then somehow I'm a failure. So we sit around and talk about all the things that we wish we would have done, the things that how we wish we would have, sometimes we even live in the past and we forget the future because we talk about the old days, how it used to be, and we hang out and we don't do some of those things that are so important, like, learning, like, a marriage class or something like that says, this is how I need to treat my wife, and where are my examples of doing that? If I grew up in a situation where I didn't have a dad who loved their mom, right? So then my example is this dad, and I saw him all the things, and I see that so much in some of the kids that we coach, and some of the some of the stories that we had. I just had an athlete that called me today that I coached. She just told me she turned 48 years old. Oh my gosh. But at the end of the conversation, she says, I love you, coach. And to think that, it has been 20 some years and I still have that relationship. And she said that I spent a lot of time teaching her what it meant to be, to love a man and to respect a man and to, have a husband that could be in charge of the household, through, godly principles. I mean, she talked a lot about that today of, how they work together in their marriage to make it work. And you start thinking about, in mass incarceration and all these men who've been taken away, and some of the students that you and I have been able to teach that have gone down those bad roads and have not been, and they're not part of the family. When we think about that, what are some of the things that maybe you have done? Because like you said, you have to continually change your identity, which means you have to continually grow, right? And in order to continually grow, it just doesn't come from, watching, television.
Yeah.
I think you talked about that. So what are some of the things maybe that you, maybe as a family or, maybe, church is one of them, but what are some of the other things that you have done specifically to improve the man that you are, the identity that you are, so that you can be this example for others?
Finding a balance. Like I said, one of the pillars is health. So in order to have family time, I go to the gym at 5 a.m. because I know everything after school needs to be focused on my family. After work has to be focused on my family. So if I work out at 5 a.m. and I get my workout in, I'm back home before everybody wakes up. Okay, so I've done my job as far as taking care of my body. I have my me time in, my quiet time, on the way to the gym, some prayer time, and then it's all family after that. It's all work and then family after that. I don't know what the night's going to bring. Who's got to go where, what we got to do with this. So we kind of decided so I can be present. Find the out time. So when the kids are sleeping, is then I need to kind of do my own personal building and uplifting. So that's one way with health.
Wait, before you jump out of health, you get up at 5 a.m. Woo, baby.
Well,
you got to get before that to get to the gym at 5, right?
My alarm is 4:38, and it's just it's a mentality thing. As my dad said, if you want something, you got to go get it. If you got to make time for it. So it's as soon as I get water on my face, I'm good.
Gotcha. Well, and then I kind of want to stay on health just for a minute, because I can't imagine the health of how you are and the energy that you have to be able to make it from 4:30 in the morning to 9 or 10 at night with all the spontaneity that happens in a day.
Yeah.
It can't just be exercise. There's got to be some type of nutrition, and how do you control what you put into your body, what you don't put into your body, that aspect of it. I mean, we're probably all not the best in the world at it, but is that a thought process? Is that something you have to?
It's a huge thought process. I mean, there's the portion size, and it's hard not to hit the drive-through. I fail at that constantly. But when I do that, I'm thankful for my wife for going to Costco and getting those protein shakes. I do that for breakfast in the morning. Lunch is rough at work because it's easy to hit fast food here and there. But she also prepares dinner, and dinner's normally, actually almost every single time, pretty healthy. and I try to stay on that discipline line. I did something recently where the only drink that I had for 75 straight days was water. No juice, no soda, no coffee, no anything, just water. Um, and that kind of helps and rejuvenate me, and just kind of also I have some other incentives because there's a lot of heart disease in my family. My dad I'm 45 years old. At 47, he had his first heart attack. He had a triple bypass surgery, and then at 65, he passed from a heart attack. Uh, my grandfather heart attack, my uncle heart attack, both my aunts heart attacks in the family. So it's in our family. So health is very important to me. So this summer right now, when I'm off work, I'm doing 2-a-day workouts. While my son goes to summer school, and then doing things with him and playing soccer and just being more involved, making a conscious effort to look at every meal you have. Honestly, is a workout, because when you work out, you're doing something for your body, and when you eat, you're doing something to your body. So if it's healthy, it's a good workout. If it's not, it's a bad workout. So that's kind of how I look at that. I'm nowhere near perfect with the health aspect. I still need to do some things to improve, but I'm making a conscious effort.
And I love that. I mean, just to think of that, hey, what do we have to do not to be a statistic? If the average person is 73, that means there's a whole bunch that are on the side of below 73. Yeah. And then there's, probably less people that are above 73. And then making sure that, the intake in our bodies, and as we get older, for those of you who are 22 watching this, I promise you'll get older, right? And it's God has created these amazing machines that we get to either take care of or to not take care of. And some people care more about their car, more about the things, that material things, than they do their body. So I appreciate that. And so on our, back, I know I cut you off because I really want to dig a little bit on that, but and unpack that a little bit. So what are some other personal development or family development things that you do, or as a family, or do you just personally?
We do a simple vacation every summer. I think that's huge. Kids get out and see some different places. They help me learn my geography. Being intentional with creative memories. Even it's more simpler than that. I take the kids to school in the morning, and we pray. I pray for them on the way to school. An intentional time. Whatever they're struggling with that week, that day, whatever, we're going to pray about. Yeah. Whether my daughter had color guard tryouts, or my son was having trouble staying in his seat. Just really, really being intentional with the family on that aspect.
Okay.
I was also as I don't coach basketball anymore, but I did for a while, and through the entire thing with George Floyd and police brutality and all those things were coming up, and so I was thinking to myself, like, we don't really talk about what are the right ways to interact with police officers, with our young Black men, right? Our young any people. What are you supposed to do when you're pulled over by a police officer? What are you supposed to do when you have an interaction with a police officer? So a team that I had, we had a large number of Black young men on the team. And so I got the campus officer to come into the classroom and just have a Q&A. If a police officer sees you across the street and says, "Hey, come here, please, I need to talk to you. Are you supposed to go?" And they're like, "No, I don't got to go." Yes, you're supposed to go. That's a symbol of authority. There's some ways that we can avoid some situations. I mean, kind of off on a tangent here a little bit, but I think that there should be some town hall meetings, and have police officers and have citizens, and have a Q&A, a dialogue. We need to talk. We need to figure some things out, especially for our youth, because either way, there shouldn't be someone that's afraid of someone else that's in authority, of a government figure. I understand there are, and I know this for a fact, I know there's some crooked police officers. There's some crooked teachers, some crooked airline pilots, and so unfortunately those are those situations. But I do think that without dialogue, without education on these things, it's not going to get any better. Some things that that has to be taught in the home. I've discussed with my kids already about These are some things. If I'm pulled over, if they're pulled over, or what are some protocols? And now, like I said, there are some officers that abuse their authority, and that's obvious. But I know plenty of amazing officers who do things the right way, just like with teaching.
Yeah, it is. You think of those connections and how important are they. Talk to me a little bit about associations. How important are the people that you hang around with, the people that you interact with, the people that you're a part of for your overall health and your overall journey?
Oh, man, they tell you show me the 5 people that you hang around, and I'll tell you the type of person you're going to be. I always believe that if I'm the smartest person in my group, I need a new group. you know,
I love it. I love it.
we and the people in your group should be your biggest cheerleaders. If I'm calling you up and telling you I just got this degree, or I just got accepted into this thing, or I just completed this, and you're not excited for me, that's a problem. As a problem, and vice versa. As a friend of mine, um, I talk to my students. If this young lady is not doesn't care that you're late to class just so you can walk her to class, she's not really caring about you. She should be encouraging you to go to class. Your buddies should be encouraging you to go to class. Um, you know, when I speak to my cousins that I have my age, we speak into each other's lives a lot. What's your plan? What are you looking forward to doing next year? We still have our family reunion every couple of years. We've had a couple of years since COVID it's kind of been hard to put together. But when we do our family reunion, we have a scholarship program set up for whatever next kid's going to college or whatever award someone's gotten, and we recognize people with making different life journeys and different, we celebrate different things that goals that people have achieved, and I think that's huge. And just it's amazing what we can remember as a youth, as our youth are watching us, and we need to understand that our youth are seeing the family dynamic. The youth are seeing how to behave. I know a guy that wrote a book, and he talked about how there's no such thing as a bad kid. There's a such thing as kids that make bad choices. So that always stands out for me.
Yeah, you think of finding whatever that group is or whatever those associations are. I have a coaching program called the Journey to Freedom Community Connection, and so it is on how do I put myself in a position that I'm hanging around the right people that are moving the needle to move me forward. Because sometimes we can get stuck, and sometimes this happens with your family, where your family you have to love them, and they're going to be your family, and they have to be part of, but they may not be the right associations for you to have continually. Like there are some pretty bad situations where if you're always at the house that everybody's getting into stuff, you need to shy away from that and see them on Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever that is, because it is so vital for our overall health, our mental health, our physical health. The us being able to move forward as examples is those associations. And just like David said, if you're the smartest person in your group, that means you're probably not growing. And I'm not saying don't be part of that. Have groups that you are, because you're the example in those groups. You're the elder in those groups. You're the one that people are looking up to. But that can't be your only group. Yeah. And finding groups can be, especially because what we have here, and maybe you can speak to this with, maybe your generation with all the video games and all the the television and the YouTube and the entertainment and the things that we spend our time on. How do we make sure that we are finding those places that can move us forward? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a whole bunch of video games that help you in that area. But
once again, I go back to balance. I mean, you have to ask yourself, is this thing that I'm spending my time on, is this helping me grow as a man? Is this helping me grow as a father? Is this helping me grow as a husband? Is it that important? Is it that important for me to spend 4 hours, playing this video game? isn't that important for me spending 4 hours watching this NFL football game?
Mm.
You know,
Oh.
tough questions, tough questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA playoffs are on right now. I love to watch the playoffs, and if my son wants me to kick the ball with him or do something, or something needs to be done around the house, you need to find that balance, because what you find yourself putting first, your kids are going to see that. They're going to understand that. I had a coach always tell me that what you permit, what you promote. If you allow your kids to do certain things, you're telling them it's okay, even without telling them. You know, so they're going, like I said, they're going to learn from you. They're going to learn from you, and it's in that time period. I mean, I think that you got to limit yourself with the screen time period, and it's such, they're in our pockets all the time. They're right in the palm of our hands. We're getting constant messages. I have the Instagram and the Facebook and all those good things, but sometimes it has to just kind of be turned off.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta literally unplug, and wherever you are, be present. If I'm at home and I'm in a conversation with my wife, it's pretty rude if I have another conversation going on, and she'll let me know. She'll let me know, and so sometimes you just got to kind of, it's that balance. Video games are not a terrible thing.
Of course not.
If you got 24 hours in a day and you look up and you spend a third of your day on a video game system, there's an issue there.
Yeah, I mean, if things in moderation, almost everything is acceptable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing it, I mean, obviously there are some things you should not be doing.
Yeah.
Yes. Like selling drugs or stuff that will harm other people.
Or using drugs,
right?
Yes.
I don't care how much moderation you have in selling drugs. There's no moderation in doing that. But as long as we, like you said, that balance that you have in there, and when we can talk about money a little bit, and figuring out finances, and it's one thing as Black men we don't ever talk about. We don't talk about how we do a budget or how we should put that together. That's another thing that is absolutely part of our program is this thing called money. If I can look at a person, I can look at, you give me your bank statement, 2 months of bank statements, I'll tell you exactly what your priorities are. Yeah. Because that your money, your priorities, money follows your priorities, because you've decided this is what's important. And if I look on there and it's all entertainment, right? And they say a lot of people spend so they can take away the pain of their own lives. They spend a whole bunch of extra money on being entertained. And I think of somebody who's, wanting to move up, or somebody who's wanting to, create something for their family, or be able to go on some of these vacations. Well, we can't go on the vacation because I had to have season tickets to the Lakers. Or I can't go on vacation because I had to buy another jersey, or I had to buy several. I know several grown men that have a closet full of Air Jordans, right? Like, which is fine, right? Yeah. But they're saying they don't have money to eat, right? Yeah. Or they don't have money to do stuff, right? And it's like, what is the priority? Well, I want to buy a house, but I haven't been able to save up for a down payment. And I go, so a house is a great investment. It's something your kids can grow as. It talks about community, all this, right? Yeah. But they have $15,000 worth of sports gear, with the name of a player on the back of their shirt, mm-hmm. that doesn't know who they are. That their win is, hey, my team won today. Well, you're really not on the team.
So what money did you get from that victory? Nothing. Yes.
Yeah, like they're excited because you paid their salary and you paid for whatever it is. But how do you, like, for you guys? I obviously don't want you to get into specifics, but what's the money conversations? What's the money talks that you guys think about, or the dreams that you have, or the priorities that make it so you can do the vacations and you can afford the Jordans and all that kind of stuff that you love?
Well, I mean, first, after my wife and I both finished college, educated, and put ourselves in a position to have jobs that pay pretty well. Besides that, there's a discipline aspect as far as savings. We say next year, where do we want to go? We want to go to Hawaii next year. Okay, well, what do we need to put away per month to go to Hawaii? What does that look like? Okay, we in our savings account, we have a different bank, and we do not have a debit card for that bank because we do not want to take money out of there.
Okay, that's smart.
So just money goes directly. If I don't see it go into the savings, I don't have it.
Mm.
I don't see it going to savings. I do not have it. I was listening to the radio the other day. They were talking about different fast food restaurants and how expensive all these combos are now. You know, McDonald's a burger combo is now $12. Burger King is $14, and at Five Guys it's $18 to $23. You know, at the same time, I saw this thing that said if you save $27 a day for a year, you have $10,000.
Ooh. Yes. Okay.
You know, so little things like that. Do I have a shoe problem? I definitely do. I try to call it a collection, not a problem, but
Mhm.
it's a problem. But at the same time, I'm never going to let a problem take food off of my table for my children,
There you go.
or
There
not pay my rent or my mortgage. Car payments are paid. Those different things like that. But just finding ways that you can cut some corners and find extra money to save. Well, not just extra money, but money to save, and just
Mhm.
being deliberate, because you can't just say, "I want to go here." Okay, well, how are we going to do it? We have a date. We have this many weeks or this many months until we want to go on this trip. Or I want to celebrate my 50th birthday here. I'm 45 right now. What do I want to look like in 5 years? What finances? How am I going to be able to balance this? California, the market is crazy right now with houses. You know, the rates right now are wild, and you also don't want to live above your means. That's huge. You don't want your mortgage taking up 75% of your income. You know, um, if you have to get a smaller place or a more meager place. I mean, the number one thing is for me is for finding a house is I need my family to be safe. Safety is number one.
Yes.
Okay. Then okay, well, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, everything else that we need, and that'll take care of itself. But once again, that goes back to the number one pillar that I think, in my opinion, is just faith. And but you know, being deliberate, like I say, with the savings, being deliberate. You know, we have an account that goes for down payment towards a home. We have an account that goes towards my daughter's and my son's college fund, whether they use it or not. If they end up getting a scholar, if my daughter ends up getting a scholarship, that money's going to go towards her wedding. You know, we just a kind of a thought process. And yes, those are tough conversations sometimes. Money in marriage is a very tough conversation, but it has to be dealt with. And so, yes, we just find that we are deliberate about saving.
Absolutely. And that is so important. Those, the savers, the tithers, living below your means. I think there's concepts, when I do speaking engagements, I talk about knowing and doing. A lot of us know what to do, but then we don't do it because in a lot of cases we just don't know how. We haven't been through, and he's not my favorite, but even as simple as Dave Ramsey's, Financial Peace University or something like that, where it kind of talks about some of those concepts about money, because it's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that we necessarily see all the time, right? Especially if our parents weren't good savers, they were good spenders. Our community as Black men, if we've been, phenomenal about spending, we haven't been phenomenal about about savings. We haven't been phenomenal about investing. Like where were all the examples of investing, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 30s and 40s when we weren't even allowed to? You think of the GIs that came back from, World War II and had the VA loans that were given to white men to be able to buy their first houses, to be able to do that. And now the Black men didn't have that opportunity. And so those generational wealth things never happened. And then now we have programs. There's so many programs out there for down payment assistance that, I'm almost doing them all the time with folks that have been in the projects that, hey, the last lady that we did, I think I did a podcast on my Black Wealth Experience podcast, we were able to get her $35,000 as a down payment. That is grant money that's free. That doesn't even have to, ever have to be paid back, to get her into a home. And there's this bigger opportunity, but if our heads are focused into the entertainment and the videos, we're not even aware that these things are available, that are out there that can help. There's programs for firemen, teachers, public servants, that are grants that are out there, that allow people to get into homes. And like you said, California, Colorado's getting there too, where it's, it's expensive. When I think about, my son's first house, and, thankful he works for a company, Pixar, which is a big company. And I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but his was well over $800,000 on his first house.
Wow.
But what he had to do is he lived with his in-laws, and he saved. So he sacrificed for 4 or 5 years. They saved every penny, and then they were able to have a huge down payment. Like you said, that $27 a day is $10,000 a year. Well, it means you don't go to Starbucks every single day.
Yeah, you don't.
They told me, I talked to a guy at Kentucky, the manager at Kentucky Fried Chicken. He said they've had 103% increase in the last 3 years. So their whatever meal, bucket meal, whatever was $19.95, it's now $38.95 for that same bucket. And I said, so does that mean less people are buying the chicken now? And he says, no, more than ever. And I said, so it's doubled in price, so better for Kentucky Fried Chicken, but more people are buying that now. But I know incomes haven't increased.
No.
Right, so that means they're taking away from what they were spending on before in order to pay twice as much for a bucket of chicken. Mm-hmm. And they say the amount of meals that McDonald's spends. So, it's important to get educated. There's places to get educated. I'm not saying you shouldn't do reels and all, and watch all the entertainment on YouTube. It's been all the time with screen time. But let me tell you, there are personal development videos that you have access to on that same YouTube, right? On that same social media, that can, if you get into it, and please, I'll put some of the comments and stuff that you can get to that can help you move forward. And so I applaud you. Hawaii is a huge one. We did that with our family. Woo. Let's see. Jalen and Zoe are born in April, and they are now 6 years old. So we went to Hawaii 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, because we got 2 grandkids that came out of our Hawaii trip. Yeah. But we saved so that I could take all of our kids to Hawaii, and we put that aside, and we said, this is our goal. This is an experience. And maybe, Dave, you can tell me, the experience is more important. Creating experiences is more important than some of the gifts that you can just give your kids, right?
Huge. Yeah. First time on an airplane, I was 12 years old. My dad, being from Brooklyn, New York, parents saved up, and we got on a plane and we flew to New York, and then we rented a car and drove down to South Carolina. But we spent time in New York first, and I remember being in New York and getting on the airplane and going to the projects where my dad grew up and playing basketball in the project. It was a big deal to me. I wanted to play New York City basketball and riding the subway and seeing my dad, who had to drive around the city of New York for the first time ever, when he always had public transportation. It was hard for him to navigate it in a car. He was always walking or on the bus. Or the subway.
Yeah. Wow.
Spending time with my grandmother and getting her good cornbread and even having there's no GPS back in the day, so I had the map. We had the map out, and we're looking and saying, okay, well, if we go from this city to this city, and we average this many miles per hour, how long is it going to take us? Stuff like that, little math problems that my dad would have me try to figure out and figure out how many miles we've come and how many miles we need to go. So those experiences are huge, and I still never forget those. And so that's something that now I try to pass on to my children. Okay.
If I were to ask you that year, what'd you get for Christmas? Right?
I have no clue.
But the experience, right?
The experience is so much more. The experience, and then who you're experiencing it with. I can tell you, there's a couple of gifts I remember. I remember getting a bike one time. My dad promised I might have been in 4th grade, and my dad said, "Oh, it's your birthday. We're going to get you a bike. When you get home, we're going to go get the bike." So we pull into the driveway. He goes, "Go run in and get your jacket real quick." And I run in, and my bike's in my room, already set up. So little those solid memories like that you want to be able to develop. And then I mean, I think as a father, I think that you would maybe feel the same way as I do. Is we always want our kids to have better than what we had.
Absolutely, yeah.
But at the same time, we got to understand, where do we get our drive and work ethic from? It wasn't just because we got handed everything. It wasn't like, so I mean, needless to say, my daughter will not be getting a Range Rover at age 16. You know what I mean? Um, where do we find this work ethic? I saw an interview where they asked Mike Tyson, are his kids going to be prize fighters? And he said, of course not. They didn't grow up fighting every day like I had to. So we want our kids to have better than what we had, but the most important thing is we want to instill in them the same values, or even better values than we had.
Absolutely. David, it's been we've been here an hour now. We've been talking, and I loved every minute of it. But give you the opportunity. I mean, there might have been some things you wanted to cover today that you wanted to, for anybody who watches this to realize. So what, maybe you can just talk about, anything that you want that we missed, that you can just say, this is what I think people should know about what it takes to be successful and to be become the person, because we're always becoming. We have none of us have arrived. I don't think I'll ever arrive. I just think I want to be better every single day.
Yeah. I think that we need to stop feeling sorry for ourselves when we hear the word no, or we find ourselves something that doesn't happen our way, and find a way to not be embarrassed by a failure, and turn and be like, okay, this didn't go my way. I have to find another way. There's a quote that I used to share with all my teams, and I share with my my family, and I even told my players when they came to see me the day after my dad passed away. And I said, life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you respond.
Wow.
And so, as men, as people, we need to understand that there is going to be setbacks, but don't be afraid of that failure. We have a light. Let your light shine. Don't let anybody dull your light. If you have an idea and it's something that's positive, and it's something that you really want and you want to work towards, you go work towards that, and you don't let anyone tell you that you can't do that. And you be as positive you can, as you be your friends' biggest cheerleaders, and you surround yourself with people that are your biggest cheerleaders. And that's just something that's really huge to me. I mean, we one of the questions we talked about a little bit was trauma. And I think that trauma, to me, is conscious or subconscious. And trauma is a person, place, thing, or event that happened in your life. And you got to be able to find a way. If you've dealt with something that happened bad to you, you got to be able to find a way to face that thing head on. Just like a little kid has to face the boogeyman one day, right?
Yeah.
Or afraid of the dark. You got to understand that you need to overcome that. And when you overcome that, that's a form of success. Success does not mean that you drive a Bentley and you have a $20 million mansion. Success means that you can look at those 5 pillars and you can find balance in your life. You can find, and you can be a positive member of this society. If you're a man, you're able to provide for your family. You're able to save some money. You can take your kids on vacation. Your kids are sleeping in a bed. They're waking up. They're healthy. You're able to take care of their needs and your wife's needs and everything like that. That's success. And we kind of need to kind of stop living for everyone else. Number one, live for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and not worry about what our neighbors have, or how can I get the next big or best car or house or whatever it is, and just kind of understand. I think that as also as Black men, we have time being we find it troublesome sometimes being transparent, showing emotion, showing that we're human. We don't got it all together. Like you said, we're all works in progress. But to understand those things and go ahead and just and and face your fears, because you're not the only ones that have out here facing fears.
And I love it. Thank you for being on. Thank you for being the man that you are. Whatever we can do, here at the show, or whether we can do to help you get into the right spots, and see, it is, like I said, it's been a pleasure that to have you on to see success. Like you said, success isn't the material things you have, because those can come and go. It's the person that you're being, it's the example that you are. It is the legacy that you leave, and you're leaving a great one. So thank you for being part of the Journey to Freedom podcast. We look forward to all of you who are going to be part of another one and watching them. And we'll look forward to talking to each of you on the next one.
Thank you very much.